The New Jersey Devils have had an incredible season this year, and if you were smart enough and quick enough, like one of our Edgework analysts, Russ, you may be in line to win a lot of money. But if you're not comfortable with sitting and waiting it out to see if the Devils win the Eastern Conference or if they go on to win the Stanley Cup, here are some strategies for you in order to guarantee yourself some profit as the Stanley Cup playoffs quickly approach. Welcome back to Edgework here on the Hammer Betting Network. We are typically live Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But as you saw yesterday, we started putting out some videos now about futures bets that were placed. Obviously, we started off with a bang with two guys who had, well, some futures bets that ultimately ended up results-based being some of the worst bets they've ever placed, and those ones basically came to a halt with a few weeks left in the season. In So Money's Boston Bruins to miss the playoffs ticket, as well as Alex B. Smith's under 98.5 season-long total points for the Boston Bruins, as we saw them clinch the President's Trophy with a couple weeks remaining in the season and lock up 125 points with 5 games left on their schedule. But today we're going to talk about some tickets that are still open for Russ, and we've teased it on the live show if you've seen all year long how he's holding some of these Devils tickets. But more specifically, we're going to get into how to maybe hedge or play some of these tickets out throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs here if you are sitting on some of these. So specifically today, we're going to look at the Devils and the 2 tickets that Russ has, and we're going to talk about those, but they will be applicable to some of the other futures bets that other people have out there. So hopefully you can take away some insights from those. But Russ, let's get into it here. The New Jersey Devils, as it stands at the time of this recording, 106 points on the season. They're currently sitting second in the Metro. We've seen a massive leap in a bunch of their young guys, the way that they've played. We saw a step up in their goaltending, their defense. This team took tremendous steps. They were one of the hottest teams in the NHL at the beginning of this year. What are the 2 tickets that you are currently sitting on with the New Jersey Devils right now?
Yeah, so I've got 2 tickets on them, one to win the Eastern Conference and one to win the Stanley Cup. The price I got for the Eastern Conference is 30-1, and the price I got for the future to win the Stanley Cup is 50-1. I'll talk a little bit about when I placed these and what I was thinking going into it, like we were chatting about a little bit before the mics went on. I placed these both on Halloween on October 31st, and you can kind of go back and look at their schedule. This is sort of right before they went on that insane run, right? So I do run a futures model as well, but my model is much more players based. So the futures model is, kind of contingent on who's in, which players are in. And I trust my players based model a lot more. But yeah, looking at this team on October 31st, they were right at the end of winning 6 out of 7 games. And, I was looking to, talking about bad futures bets. I had some terrible futures bets that already looked bad in the Caps and the Blues to win the Stanley Cup. So, everyone has these crumpled up futures tickets in the trash somewhere. So this is my mindset going in. It's like both of these teams look horrible. I would love to have something live on the Stanley Cup. I have a various amount of missed or make the playoff tickets. Futures like that, but I wanted a live one on the Stanley Cup, on the big one. So checking out the odds, checking out everything. This team had just come off winning 6 of 7, and their future prices are down there with the Isles and the Preds and some of these really, really bad teams. I think even the Caps and the Blues were right down there as well. And it obviously a very, very young team, and that could hurt them or that could help them in the playoffs. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here coming up. But yeah, very young team, but they've got Lindy Ruff, man. This guy is tried and true, has proven himself in this league, was at the Buffalo Sabres for a long time and had a small stint at the Stars. And then I just thought he was a really good fit for this team. And we've talked about it on this show. If you can get some of these young guys to buy in to what you're preaching, you can get the best out of them night in and night out. And so that's basically exactly what happened, man. Get them at 50-1. And that's that. They went on that run of winning 15 out of 17 after that. And then at one point, I think it was like 22 out of 24 that they won or something crazy like that. Maybe like 21 out of 24, something like that. So safe to say, like, that is the anomaly of betting futures. That never ever happens. You bet them right away and they just go into winning mode, and their odds just completely lower. So sitting with 50-1, just watching their games, watching those odds shrink and shrink and shrink to where they are now at 11-1. As far as price goes and timing in the market, that is one of those times where you can't beat the timing. After winning a few and thinking, all right, maybe these guys have something in the tank, let's pull the trigger, and then right away they go on that crazy streak. So I think the timing of the thing was the biggest thing for me, and then being able to kind of suss out those edges. Whereas you look at those other teams that they're around in those future prices and thinking, this team is way better than some of these teams that I don't even think are going to make the playoffs at all. And fast forward to where we are now, 3 points back from the division lead, and hopefully they can catch this Carolina team. I think that would be really, really awesome. Just to be able to get home ice and avoid the Rangers in the first round of the playoffs would be huge for me and huge for my futures and the hedging strategy going forward.
Right. So you kind of teased there at the end, the possible hedging strategy going forward, and mentioned earlier on the potential matchups come playoff times. Just for context for people out there of where they were at, we'll start here. Like, Russ placed the 30-1 to win the East. Currently, the New Jersey Devils are sitting at 7-1, so plus 700 to win the East as it stands right now. And then the other one that Russ has here is the Stanley Cup Future for the Devils at 50-1. And right now, we're looking at the New Jersey Devils 12-1, plus 1,200 to win those. So you see a tremendous change in terms of the odds here, and that's reflected in the seasons that they've had, and as you mentioned, where they're sitting in the standings right now. And I mean, hey, I'm no stranger to having some of these bets go the opposite way, as we talked about on the live show that we did today. I was sitting there with the Sens to make the playoffs ticket as well. They won 2 games in a row after I placed it. I thought, wow, I'm in a good spot here. They got closer, and then I think they went on a 4-game losing streak after that and basically burned the ticket about a week and a half later. Or as So Money and Alex were talking about in their video about the Bruins futures they had. I mean, So Money places it to miss the playoffs, expecting that these guys are going to miss a bunch of the season, the older guys they had, and they came back earlier than he expected. And on top of that, it didn't really affect the team while they were out. They just started on a heater and it never even mattered. So quickly you can see it go the opposite way. But let's talk about some of the hedging strategies going forward. I think some of it is going to go hand in hand with your Stanley Cup as well as to win the East and how you might play these out. But you're looking at these tickets that you have right now. Drastic price change from where they were at when you placed them October 31st. You're looking at them in a position where you could have a variety of outcomes here in terms of where they could finish in the division by the end of the season, who the matchups could be in the first round. Even let's say they do jump Carolina, they take over first in the Metro Division. There's no certainty in terms of who they play in the wild card, because between Florida, Pittsburgh, New York, there is still a rotation of characters through that wild card position of who they could play. So let's dig into the hedging strategy and kind of what you would be looking for. And I said before we started recording, but it is a little bit of a choose your own adventure here of, okay, where do they finish? Who do they play? Let's just kind of get into a little bit. How do you look at hedging here? At what point do you start having to place some of these bets? How much does series prices and what you project series prices factor in? And then kind of how do you convert those from here's my series price to here's what I had and here's how I'm going to play this?
Yeah. You said a couple of smart things in there, and I'll try to just parse them out and go over them individually. But I think, one of the main things is kind of pricing each team according to my fair price, and then comparing that to what Vegas has or what's in market, and sort of seeing what is off market. And that's basically why I ended up on the Devils in the first place. So, but like you mentioned with the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Panthers race, absolutely wild. And that matters so much to me, because if this Devils team does end up jumping the Hurricanes, which they totally could in the next few games, they'll get that first spot and they'll play that wild card spot. So looking at you can pull up, a bracket and kind of play around with it and see. But look, if they finish right now, if the playoffs ended today, they were in the second spot, the Rangers were in the third. Obviously, they would face the Rangers in that matchup and get the home ice advantage. For me, if you've watched any of these shows, I'm fairly low on the Rangers this year. I've been low on them pretty much all year. So couple of things on hedging. I think there's two things. I think you should consider hedging if it's a ridiculous amount that's going to change your life. If you have some crazy ticket, parlay on a golf event or whatever, and you're going to win a life-changing amount of money, you should seriously think about hedging. And secondly, I think that if the market odds have changed drastically like we have here, I think that's another really, really good time to hedge. You've got a team that was bottom of the road 50-1, and now they're all the way. That was like the fourth favorite to win the whole thing. So those odds have dropped so much that that's another time that I'm going to definitely hedge, just because I have a significant amount on it to win quite a bit at 50-1. So let's parse this down a little bit. All right. Playoff ends today, or the playoffs start today. They face the Rangers. This will probably be actually a fairly close series price because Vegas loves Igor, and people love betting on the Rangers, it seems like. All year I've heard Moretto talk about how much they're a fraud, and I've talked about how much they're a fraud. And so everyone's kind of, if you do analytics, if you do modeling, you see kind of the same things, that we are all seeing. So I would price that at about -120. New Jersey Devils probably -120 or -125. And that's probably my fair price. And you're going to probably get, probably two-way action, about 50-50. Like I said, a lot of people love to bet on the Rangers. And, personally, I think that's way too early to consider hedging at all. If they go down to the Rangers, there's really nothing you can do. It's just too early. There's too many series to wager on the series price. Now let's look if, on the other hand, if they do end up catching the Hurricanes and then they play the wild card, it's the same situation. You're facing a worse team, arguably probably would like to see Pitt in there, honestly, just because their defense and their goaltending is so bad. Probably don't want to see the Islanders in there just because of Sorokin. He can change an entire series just by himself. So I've been very much monitoring that. Okay, so say they do play the Islanders first series. Same thing. It's too early to hedge. There's not much you can do, really, just too many series to go. All right, say they move past, whether it be the Isles in the wild card spot that they play, or whether they do play the Rangers, say they move ahead and advance to that next round, then I think you have to start considering hedging. And for me, it would mostly be hedging that the Eastern Conference ticket, to start with, so that I could gain a little bit of profit. So, this is sort of a math problem, right? If you look at what the current price is and then look at what futures you have, I think that you start out by just locking in a little bit of a price that just to cover the ticket, right? So, so say they get through that first round, they're matched up against the Hurricanes in the second round. If we just consider the playoffs starting today, the Hurricanes win their first round matchup against the Panthers or Islanders. The Hurricanes win, against the Panthers or the Islanders, and the Devils win against the Rangers, right? So we got Hurricanes, Devils second round. This is when I start to get pretty concerned, right? We've got a very, very young Devils team against a solid, very defensive, very, very playoff, experienced Canes team. So this is probably where you do put a couple of units on the Canes, right? So, considering the 30-1, let's just say we have one unit to win 30, I would probably consider putting 2 to 4 units here on the Canes series price. Probably close to even money. Honestly, the Devils would probably be underdogs, right? So we're talking Canes -130-ish or so against the Devils, maybe something like that, like a 57 to 58% implied odds. So yes, that's when I start to put 3 units to, risk 3 units to win 2.5 on the Canes in that series just to lock in a profit, right?
Right.
Okay, so hopefully these Devils just keep on rolling, right? Say they roll on through there. Well, your ticket is down to win 27.5 or to win 27 if you just risk those 3 units on that ticket. But, that next round is for the Eastern Conference. So, I think this is when you start to hedge that Stanley Cup future, if you're following me here. Yep. You're playing in the Eastern Conference final. hopefully free roll into 30-1 would be so sick. And honestly, I would put, even for the Eastern Conference ticket, I would put a little bit of money on whoever they play in the final, right? Just to lock that in. And as well as I would probably, this would be a separate bet, but I would probably start hedging a little on the Stanley Cup also. And it's a similar thing. Maybe if I have one unit to win 50, which I don't have quite that much. I wish I did, but if it's just for the math's sake, say, one unit to win 50, maybe I'm putting 5 units on the Eastern Conference Finals opponent of the Devils. Right. And so then the Stanley Cup Future is, down to 45-1, or, if they do end up losing, you win both of those tickets and you got 8 units on the 2 futures bets. God forbid the Devils just keep on rolling and roll all the way through, then you've got that 30, you got that 27-1 cashed, and you still have to win 45-1 in the Stanley Cup if you bet the 5 units on whoever they play in the Eastern Conference Finals, if that makes sense. Right. So there's a way, everybody I think is a little bit different. And like I said, if you've got 10-1, 15-1, something like that, it's a lot different. It makes it a lot harder to eke out a profit on some of those. And you're cutting into, your future price that it's not really worth it, as opposed to if you've got 30 units or risking, to win 30 or to 50, you can put a couple 2-4 units on it and still have enough at the end of the ticket if they do end up cashing. But I will say, just as far as this team has been playing, and they're so young, I don't think the Stanley Cup ticket will cash. So I'm going to be looking to hedge that one pretty heavily if they do make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So yeah, I think, a little bit of depends on if you still like the team, how the team has been playing as well. And they've kind of been struggling, man. So, maybe it's just getting right for the playoffs. Maybe they're just kind of working some things out, but they really haven't been playing that well. So that's another reason that I'm planning on hedging this.
Okay, so a couple things you said there that I think are very important. First and foremost, we preach transparency and responsible gambling when we talk about all this stuff that we do on our daily picks and previews, as well as our futures and stuff. And one thing you brought up there I think is very important for people to take away from this. If this is life-changing money, this is definitely a very, very good opportunity for you to start looking at the hedging and how you could get secure profit in these situations. So I think that that's very important to start off with. But then kind of just to break down the process a little bit here, first and foremost, we're looking at an opportunity where the Devils would likely be favored in the first round series of both. And you're kind of saying in these situations, you're going to let that one play out. You get past the first round, leave it as is. Now you get to the second round. Once you get here, now you're going to first and foremost look at hedging the Eastern Conference. And now, okay, let's say you get past this, you get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, rather than betting the series price against the Devils in the Eastern Conference and hedging into that one again, now you're looking ahead to the next one at the Stanley Cup, correct? That's how this is kind of trajectory is. Yep. So I think that that's an important thing for people to take away. It's kind of the process of this is first round, at least in Russ's case, this doesn't have to be for everybody, but how Russ is looking at this first round, hey, if it loses, then so be it. That's the way that this one goes for now, and you move on. But if they advance past the first one, now you're looking at hedging into the Eastern Conference, get to the Eastern Conference Finals. You don't hedge into that again. Now you're hedging into Stanley Cup and then playing it out that way. So I think that that's an important process. It's very interesting. Everyone can play their different way, hedge out different ways. But as you mentioned, it is a math thing. So it's also what you're comfortable with, how you want to play this out, how much you want to win, and how much you're prepared to lose on these situations. But Russ, last thing I'm going to ask you before we finish this one off, it's something you see all over social media, especially in gambling Twitter. I'm holding this huge ticket. Do I cash out? Where are you at in the cash out conversation? Just in terms of, is this something you do? Is there a price that it would get to where you would say, okay, yep, cash out? How do you personally play this?
Nope. Yeah. No, honestly, I'm almost always anti-cash out. That's just the books trying to get a little bit of money back from you, and when they've already have you in a tough position. So honestly, there's so many different ways you can play it as opposed to cashing out. And normally those odds are very, very poor that they give you on the cash out. So, I mean, there's so many things you can do. I mean, you could sell your ticket. You can hedge it. You can put futures on other teams. You can, play it back. You can do all kinds of different things with it. And, that's a little bit of that. I think you kind of have to consider the team and the situation. Every situation is so much different. Like I said, if you've got, $100 or to win $100, probably just let it ride, man. Just hope for the best and let it ride. If it's a significant amount, then you need to really think about your strategy. And then another thing is, if this team isn't playing as well, you really need to think about it too. I mean, think about if we get to the finals and we've got the Oilers versus the Avs and the Bruins versus the Devils. You know what I mean? Like, they'll be the fourth favorite for sure. And I'll be happy that I cashed the Eastern Conference ticket, but if they won that game. But no, like I was saying, I would be hedging massively on those games because of those teams and just where I had the Devils projected. Like, that would be, that'd be honestly, that would be my nightmare scenario, but that could easily happen. That would be so money's dream scenario, I'm sure. Oilers. But no, it's, I think like these futures are as much as profitable as they are fun. It's like especially when you're doing stuff like this, man. I put the ticket in Halloween, and we've been able to talk about it every week on the show. And somebody just gives me shit every week. I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to start giving him shit about the Bruins to miss the playoffs ticket that he has. But like, it's just great to you have all season to think about it and to figure out what you're gonna do. So that's half of it right there, and just like rooting for this random young team. So I think we went over that pretty well. But I think the important part to remember is, if it's life-changing money, you should probably seek out and get an actual strategy. And if it's a case like this where it's high odds and the team's not playing as well, I think you should probably try and hedge. And that's definitely what I will be doing if we do get that finals. Like I said, if we got the Avs and like the Oilers in there, and they have to play the Bruins in the Eastern Conference final, I will not be feeling great about those tickets at all. But I'll be massively hedged on the other side, hedged on the other side. So that gives you peace of mind. It's like, maybe they come out, play the Bruins series. The Bruins are minus 150, but I have this ticket to win 27 units, and then I put 10 on the 15 to win 10 on the Bruins. Like, that's a beautiful scenario right there. Profitable. You cash 10 units, or you cash 20 or 12, 10 or 12.
Yeah. Yeah. So either way, I agree. I think this is a fun way to go about things.
Yeah.
A fun thing to have throughout the course of the season. You can blame me for bringing that up each and every week about the Devils and how they were doing. I should have turned it around and thrown some shade back at So Money for where the Bruins were at. Kept asking him, hey, you think they could still miss the playoffs? But it is what it is. And if you haven't seen the breakdown of So Money and Alex talking about their Bruins futures tickets, that kind of went south very quickly for them. Make sure to check that out after you watch this video. It is here on the Edgework channel. If you're watching right now, you haven't hit subscribe to this channel, please make sure to do so. Like this video. If you have questions or anything that was said here today throughout the course of this, make sure to drop them in the comments below. We will go through, answer them to the best of our ability after the video. So if there is anything in there that you don't understand, maybe you have a similar situation but you're wondering, we'll try to get to those questions in the comments in the section below. So make sure to fire them there. But hopefully this was helpful for people. Russ, thanks for taking the time to do this. Good luck to you on these Devils futures. I'm rooting for you. You've got my
Devils,
support
baby.
in that. I know the rest of the Edgework crew is rooting as well. So for the rest of the season, throughout the course of the playoffs, we are all Devils. Russ, thanks for taking the time to do this. For everyone else, we'll see you guys back for our live daily shows Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, doing picks and previews. Good luck on your bets.